All right, we're here. We don't have a name yet.
We need to have a better fucking intro. God damn it. This is a take two.
What's up, everybody? We are TBD, to be determined, book club, talking all about books, specifically fantasy, sci-fi, things that we enjoy reading. And today we're going to be talking about one of our all-time favorite series, the series that got us both into reading again as an adult, and that's Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson.
This is the first fantasy series I've ever read. I read Harry Potter growing up.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, you just floating through life when you're a little kid, having no clue where you're at half the time. Yeah, my first fantasy series as an adult, Mistborn trilogy.
Yeah.
By Brandon Sanderson.
Absolute peak. And if you want to trick your friends into becoming a reader like I did, recommend the Mistborn, because the series as a whole is so easy to read and get lost in the world that if somebody can make it through the book, they're almost guaranteed to start reading with you.
That's a good freaking point. And you tricked me.
I've done it to you. I've done it to you, and I did it to Joe Hickman.
Yeah. It's I going into it, I didn't really know what to expect because I am unfamiliar with, as a relatively new reader anyways, unfamiliar with how books are set up in general, which sounds kind of stupid. You're like, well, it's just, there's nothing to it. But there is. There's world building. There's characters. There's dialogue. There's a million different details. There's prose. How is the sentence, literally a sentence, play out? And perspectives, things like that. Perspectives changing. And there's a lot to it. And you just fall nicely into these Mistborn books. And before you know it, you understand a lot about this world. And it just is good. Just all around good.
Yeah. So we have a couple of things we want to talk about. We're going to do, I think we're going to, I just lost my train of thought. We're going to do this in two sections. First section, spoiler free. Second section, spoilers. We're going to talk spoilers, and we'll make sure to give you plenty of warning by the time we get there. So if you haven't read the series, you don't get spoiled upon.
That's a good, spoiled all over. Kyle, you asked me a good question last time. You said, what's your elevator pitch for this series? Yeah. And I was put on the spot, and I'm talking about our first
That's what an elevator pitch is. You're at 8 seconds in the elevator going to the 4th floor. Sell it.
Figure it out. So I wrote an elevator pitch. That way I can make sure to hit all the important parts for anybody who's never read the series. Make sure that I talk about the things that will, pique interest, which is, I just learned pique is P-I-Q-U-E, pique interest, without giving away anything. Yeah. Pique interest. So I'm going to read to you my elevator pitch, which is only a couple little paragraphs. And if I had to do it, I would have to talk fast because I'm a fast talker anyways. So here we go. Are you ready?
Ding. Ding.
Oh, he's on the first. Okay.
Ding.
So peasant class street urchin Vin, who is the main character of the book, is alone and abused in a world that is completely controlled by an immortal and supremely powerful dictator called the Lord Ruler. Pretty much unreachable, unattainable. We don't really know much about him. She's technically a slave in the world, part of the class known as Ska. Most of the entire world is Ska, slave people. There's a tiny merchant class, and then everybody else is nobility. And
even within the nobility, there's like levels to that shit.
Yeah. She lives outside of this sort of slave structure and the structure of the world anyways, because she is a thief, part of a thieving crew. So she lives outside of like being controlled, going to work, blah, blah, blah. She's living on the lam. All right. Hey, where'd it go? Where'd my elevator pitch go?
Oh, no,
I'm hitting all the buttons on the elevator to give me more time. All right. The main thing that's kept her alive is a sort of what we introduced to very on, a sort of feeling that she has that she calls upon in dire situations. She doesn't really understand how it works. Did a book just fall?
Yeah.
She doesn't really know how this feeling works, but when things get desperate, she focuses on a person and can usually get what she wants from them or get them to say or do the things that she needs. It's very weak and not very defined within her, and it's just more of an emotional thing that she calls upon when she needs it. At this point, the reader and Vin are introduced to Kelsier. He's an incredibly charismatic man with a drive to overthrow the godlike Lord Ruler and topple the final empire, which is the civilization that they live in. He teaches Vin all about Allomancy,
which is the magic system.
And which is honestly, we don't come to find out until later, which is one of the 4 types of magic kind of happening in this world. Allomancy, you use small amounts of metal, you ingest small amounts of metal to be able to have different effects upon the world around you. Kelsier informs Vin that she has been burning brass to subtly influence and manipulate or pull, what they call pulling on people's emotions. That sets the scene for the rest of the journey, in which we're introduced to a wide range of interesting and, more importantly, dynamic characters and their attempt to overthrow a borderline god. He's pretty much a deity.
He's like untouchable, and he's been ruling for 1,000+ years. He can't,
They believe he's immortal.
Yeah, immortal. He's been living for 1,000+ years. This dude's got his hand on the throat of humanity.
So we get to go on the ride with this crew who they're listening to Kelsier, and he's saying, we're going to overthrow the final empire, and we're going to kill the Lord Ruler. And they're like, all right, we're with you, dog, because we fuck with you like that.
Yeah,
but this is literal nonsense.
He's kind of goated too. He's got a little bit of a past. He's known in the world and in the city as
Kelsier.
Yeah,
yeah, he's got a damn reputation.
Yeah, he's got a reputation.
He's got street cred.
He's got hella street cred.
He comes into the John with street cred that we don't know about, that we get to learn about his past, and they're like, hold on, Kelsier's that dude.
Yeah. So the first book is pretty much introduces Vin and Kelsier and some of the other main characters, and Vin goes along this path of learning what she can do, figuring out her powers. Kelsier becomes her mentor, and they're going to take down the Lord Ruler. Which,
as the reader, and a lot of the characters, as the reader, you understand this because a lot of the characters insinuate this. It's an impossible task. There have been like revolutions before or revolts before that just get completely squashed because of the nobility and their understanding of the magic system. To the Ska, the reason Vin didn't even know what she was doing is because it's all myth. By the nature and definition, you can only have these powers if you have noble blood. So anybody with powers is nobility, and there should never be anybody in the Ska population that has any sort of powers, for reasons that you find out when you read the book. So it's literally the magic system of this universe that they live in is a myth to them because nobody knows about it except for the nobility.
Yeah, and then within that, there's rarer powers within that. And then you have the Lord Ruler, who has absolute control over pretty much everything, information. He's like done a good job of wiping out like certain parts of history, so people don't
put the pieces together.
Yeah, to figure out what's going on. It's an incredible story. It starts off, the first book I would consider as like a heist type book. Like it's more about the thieving, the guilds. They're in this crew. And then the second book and third book,
not only is it a heist, they have different like objectives, like sub tasks, like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, that way it can go towards this. And not only within that, each person has a different thing that they're sort of doing. I never even thought about that way. That's exactly what it is. Yeah, and they're getting shit ready to go.
And then it evolves, because I've seen people talk about it where they love the first book because it's got that heist feel, but then book 2 and book 3 don't have that feel anymore. It goes into more of like this epic fantasy.
Oh, if that was anybody's take on the book, disregard that opinion. It gets much bigger, more important, and better. That's the first book sets up an introduction, and that's an elementary, still good, but it gets better. If somebody said that, I didn't like. I like the first book because of the heist type motif. No, dog, it gets better and more important, more meaningful.
Yep, very, very good, very easy read. Like I said, Brandon Sanderson, the way he writes it's not necessary. His prose aren't super crazy. He's not writing very poetic, but he's so descriptive that it's easy to get lost in his world. So you're reading this world. The world building is insane. You're in this setting. It's Mistborn, so there's this mist that you know nothing about that makes the world feel really alive in its own way. There's these creatures that live out in the mist that people are scared of. Like the whole world and the magic system is so easy to get lost in. That's why I'll always recommend people to start with Mistborn if they're trying to get into reading fantasy books.
Yes.
Because you can just get lost in the world, and then you're hooked on what fantasy can do, because it takes it all the way to the end.
Yeah.
Of what fantasy can be. He takes it all the way to the end.
He really does. I had it written down in my notes. I lost my train of thought because now I'm focused on what you were saying. What I'm reading The Way of Kings now, which is another completely different series of books by Brandon Sanderson. And reading this makes me think back to when I was reading Mistborn and I was new to him as an author and new to fantasy as a genre, of these things that I would have thought are like plot holes or not really well explained or whatever. No, I know better. I'm not getting got twice. I'm not getting got with Way of Kings the way I got with Mistborn. This dude is setting stuff up. I have it written down in my notes. That's what I was going to say. I have it written down in my notes that he sets up so many things
Yep.
that are mentioned or brought up that you don't think too much about. Come to find out, he knew all along where Brandon Sanderson, the author, knew all along where he was going, and that wasn't an offhand description of the world. That plays perfectly into something that's going to be introduced later. And I learned throughout Mistborn that the characteristics or like the description of the world or the magic system, nothing, you don't need to discard anything. It will be brought back and it will be explained and made, and you will understand why that detail was in there.
Yeah, he does such a good job of making you want to know more, giving you enough information to keep you engaged, but not giving you enough where you still want to keep reading to find out more.
Yes.
It's incredible what this man can do. I don't know how he can keep it straight in his head. And he also puts out like 2 to 3 books a year, which some of these authors can't put out a book a decade.
Why? How?
It's insane, dude.
And it's the quality, dude. The quality and quantity that's how you go down as one of the greats.
He's an absolute madman. I saw a video of him talking about it, and he was talking about magic systems. He said what makes a magic system is not like what it can do, but it's what it can't do, which is like plays into Allomancy, how they have these limitations of physics still apply. So the big thing is they push and pull metal, and physics still apply. So they have to use their powers within reality, and it just makes it so much more engaging and almost real.
I couldn't agree more. You're slowly introduced into different things that by the end of the trilogy, you understand so much about this world without it having ever felt forced or cluttered. That's what I have written down in my notes, that it's like you are just slowly over time. And like I was saying, with the details that you're being exposed to without being shoved in your face of, he's doing this because this. You're slowly introduced to these details that by the end of the trilogy, you understand a very thorough understanding of the way magic works, the way the universe works. And with regards to the magic system that you're describing, I do have one scene when you said that
are we getting into spoilers here? A potential spoiler. We're about it's about time anyways. We can move over to spoilers.
You know what the trilogy's about now. Go read it. If you haven't read Mistborn, the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, go check it out. You're in for a freaking treat. I think it is I haven't read a ton of fantasy, but I think it would be a wonderful introduction into it. It made me want to read more of his work.
I agree.
Okay. Into maybe slight spoilers. It doesn't give away any crucial plot points, but one scene, when you said that he mentioned that a magic system, how good it is based on kind of judged by what it can't do. There's one scene that stuck out to me as not holding up to the standard that he has set for himself with regards to that. So the magic system is very much based in physical reality. For example, burning different metals with Allomancy allows you to push or pull on metal in the real life. So for example, if I were to pull on a car, because the car weighs so much more than me, it wouldn't move towards me. I would get yanked towards it, for example. So a good Mistborn or a good somebody who's using this magic understands all of these rules and is able to use it during combat to their advantage. So there was one part in which Kelsier is doing what he can to inspire troops. So he has a very small soldier fight a very big soldier. And during that combat, Kelsier is watching, and he's using his Allomancy to control the small soldier's sword and shield. And I remember that scene sticking out to me because it kind of broke the rules a little bit, or maybe it either broke the rules a little bit or it wasn't very descriptive and didn't add up to the standard of coherency.
Yeah.
And
he has very clear and defined rules, and that's what kind of makes a hard magic system, is it has very clear rules of what it can and what it can't do.
Yeah. And in this scene, it seemed like it was giving Wingardium Leviosa type control vibes over the sword and shield versus the sword. From where Kelsier was, he should only be able to push or pull on the sword, push or pull on the shield, for example. And yes, he could help him, but it would depend upon the exact perfect angles in relation to each other, and he wouldn't be able to do certain things. You know what I mean? but it felt like he was puppeteering him and making him be a good fighter.
Yeah.
And I remember that scene sticking out because Brandon Sanderson has such a high standard for his the magic system and how it always adds up. That one stuck out to me a little bit.
Yeah, I do remember that scene now that you're talking about it. It wasn't like a scene that stuck out to me. I'd be interested to go back and reread it and just that scene and see what you're talking about. But yeah, I could see like he was kind of controlling him a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the intricacies of how he was describing it.
And the only reason it stuck out to me is because of how good the rest is.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has set up a standard for himself to where, like I was saying, all those little details come into play that you thought were not relevant or important and are relevant. And not only that, are integral into, this whole fucking thing since the beginning adds up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was like, this is not quite adding up. But that's
Yeah.
it. That's the only scene. That's the only one. And it's not even like it was like a blemish. It was like just something I thought about of maybe it does work out and it just, and the part of the problem could be the reader, Bob. I'm telling you that right now.
Very high probability. So that's it. That's in the first book, Mistborn, right?
Mistborn, I believe so, yeah. Because he's like training. He's getting an army of Ska soldiers ready to try to fight against they don't know what.
Yeah. I'll have to go back and reread that because he does always do a good job of bringing it all back together. Maybe there was something you missed.
Yeah, I was gonna say it might be. I have to reread it. I'm gonna see what I wrote down. This is what I said. There was one scene in which Kelsier uses his pushing and pulling Allomancy to control a smaller, weaker soldier to defeat a larger soldier. And this is all for like the morale of his soldiers. He's just saying like,
he's got this like legendary aura of like Kelsier is also like undefeatable.
There's a
super
reverence
strong.
around him. Yeah.
Like he's kind of got this cult. He builds and plays into this cult fantasy of these people think that he can actually fight the Lord Ruler and he's somebody just as powerful. And so he kind of plays into that to get people to
lead his troops.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he uses a weaker soldier to defeat a larger soldier. And while reading, I felt the governing rules of the magic system were really pushed to their logical limits and kind of, like I said, kind of gave that Wingardium Leviosa vibe of just controlling it from afar rather than the steadfast magic system present throughout the rest of the text. That's what I wrote in it. And I think a good reread might be possible. Maybe, chances are with how prolific of an author he is, chances are I'm missing, like there might have been a line or two that I misread or misinterpreted. And I'm like, oh, that does add up.
Yeah, or with him, because his big thing is most of the books he's written are in the Cosmere as a whole, that you could get into some other stuff later, or is the other books in the Mistborn series, and maybe it comes back and explains some stuff.
Here's how it works.
You never know, because I've only read the first Mistborn trilogy. I haven't gotten to the next ones yet, so I have no idea.
Right. I've already had my mind blown out by this man. So I can only, I wouldn't be surprised if Kelsier is having some funny business happening that he's causing.
Yeah. And
he's
so
a beast.
That's a good little segue into like some things that we didn't necessarily like about the book. One of my big things is in book 2, there is kind of this love triangle that's happening that I just don't feel is very necessary to the story as a whole. I feel like it felt more forced that there was this love triangle going on. I don't mind the romance. Like she was already falling in love with with Elind.
When Brandon Sanderson wrote this, he was going through some shit. He was going through a breakup or something. No, but I remember. I know what you're talking about.
And I just remember feeling like this isn't like super necessary for this to be happening. It doesn't advance the story in my opinion. But to each their own. There's some people that really enjoyed the love triangle that happens, and it only happens for
a little bit of book 2.
Yeah, like not even half of book 2. So it's like not that important of a thing, which also led me to believe like why do we waste time with this?
Yeah, I remember us discussing this initially, and I like it that we disagree about this.
Yeah. To
me, so the main character Vin, whose story we're following, and her love interest Elind. I pronounced it Elind the whole time I was reading because I didn't want his name to sound like Ellen. I didn't want to see Ellen. So I said Eland.
Blonde hair, short blonde hair boy too, just like Ellen.
Cutie pie. But Eland, her love interest, so Vin and Eland are the main, and Kyle's talking about a third party coming in, stirring the pot a little bit.
Yeah, we're in spoilers of book 2, by the way. So
I never got that vibe from that dynamic at all. The vibe that I got from this character, his name is Zane, coming into the picture, was him trying to get her to go with him and be with him. Obviously, just says it out loud, like, come be with me, blah, blah, we'll leave all this. And I got the vibe, and she keeps entertaining his company throughout different things. I got the vibe of she knows she's never going to leave Eland. She loves him and wants to be with Elend. She wants to stay with Elend. But she's seeing what kind of information and what she can learn and what she can do with Zane, so she keeps being around him. That she knew all along. She entertains it for like a thought in her head of maybe I could just go, but then she's like, nah, I'm not interested in that. I'll never do that. So I never even got the vibe of this is a serious love triangle. This is him trying to convince her to go with him. She knows what her duty is and what she's going to do, but and his involvement, not necessarily romantically, but his involvement does become crucial by the end of that book.
Yeah, he does have a fairly important role in the end of that book.
And Vin's a bad bitch. You can't blame a player for shooting his shot. I can only assume she's the baddest bitch in the land. She might, I don't know about hottest, nothing like that, but she is what's known in this universe as a Mistborn.
Which there's only a handful of these people. So a Mistborn can control all of the Allomancy powers, and there's only a handful of them in this universe.
They're incredibly powerful, and not only can she has complete Allomantic authority over burning every single metal. She was trained by Kelsier, who is like this cult following that Kyle mentioned. He pretty much has a religion around him. He's known as the survivor of Hathson. So he has this whole thing around him. And then after he dies, she was the one trained by him. So she kind of gets a cult like following. So she's a Mistborn. She's a bad bitch. I can't blame Zane for shooting his shot. Matter of fact, I was halfway thinking of myself was shooting my shot. So
how you doing?
How you doing, Vin? So I mean, the love triangle makes sense. The fact that there wasn't more people searching after her, wanting to snatch her up.
I just felt like it wasn't enough. It was like if you're gonna do the love triangle,
it was one pant leg in, one pant leg out.
Yeah, like let's do the thing or let's not do the thing. Like it kind of felt like it was love triangle, but like what you're saying is you didn't get love triangle vibes, and
which further
I
demonstrates
got
the point.
Love triangle vibes demonstrates the point. It was one pant leg in, one pant leg out, and I don't fuck with that shit.
I don't fuck with that. I'll go hard. Yeah, but it's so cool though. His role. That brings me to we're still in spoilers, and this is a big one. So brings me to my favorite character. And my favorite character in these books, well, it's hard to say because by the end of the book,
it changes book by book.
It does change book by book. One character that stuck out to me as one of my favorites, his name is Tensoon.
The G.
So this dude Tensoon is of a class of race of species. I don't even know what you want to call it, called Kandra. And these Kandra, I counted what the Kandra are as their own magical system.
Yeah.
So you have Allomancy, you have Hemalurgy, and you have Ferrochemy.
Yeah.
You have 3 magic systems, and then I counted the Kandra as a 4th and completely separate type of magic system. So they're all overlapping.
Yeah.
They're all kind of tied to one another. But the Kandra are a class of people created by the Lord. I'm not saying people, a class of living creatures created by the Lord Ruler, and they are shapeshifters. They literally can absorb whatever they absorb is what they can become, and the longer they're immortal, the longer they
absorb the skin. So like they kill somebody, and then they
suck them in.
They're like
envelop them,
and then have their skin, and only the bones are left behind. And then when they shapeshift again, they drop off the skin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they become that person. So what the Kandra will get used by the nobility to infiltrate and spy. They will go and study and watch somebody for months on end and practice all their mannerisms, the way they speak, all their interactions, get as much information as they can, and then they won't kill them. They can't kill them. But
they have somebody else.
They'll have somebody kill them, or the person who has hired and contracted the Kandra will kill them and have the Kandra absorb their body and become that person, indistinguishable.
Because they can't kill, right? They can't
kill humans.
They can't even attack humans.
Right.
Yeah.
Because So these Conjure, dude, are incredible, incredibly well written. I was in love with every aspect of their culture, and you get exposed to like their rules and their agreement and how they play into society as a whole, how they play into the Lord Ruler is kind of a mystery that I kept wondering about the Conjure. They're so tight. So my favorite character, Tensoon, goes on some gangster ass shit, betrays 1,000 years of precedent set by Conjure culture and their agreement with the Lord Ruler, and ends up helping Vin in a way that was mind-blowing. So he's a G. You got to think he's literally going against his people to do what he thinks is right, and he is the only one. Like the contract, they call it the contract with human beings, with the Lord Ruler specifically, means they cannot do these certain things. And he goes against over 1,000 years of their culture and against his people.
And he's kind of like a, he's like up there in their
yeah, he's a badass in their hierarchy.
Yeah, in their hierarchy. So it's like it's determined by age, and you have the first
by generation,
the first generation who are kind of like I don't know if they can do all the things that the younger generations can do. They're kind of just held up in the city, making all the rules and stuff. And then he's the second generation, which is the first generation that can kind of go outside in the world and function and like
and get contracts with humans and stuff. Yeah.
So he's like up there as an important person, and a lot of other Conjure look up to him, and he fucking bounces and does, breaks the precedent and follows his own moral compass and doesn't get told what to do.
Yeah.
And they almost kill him for it.
Yeah. He's a badass as far as the depth of who he is as a character, just the things that the Conjure can do is tight, but then the more you learn about Tensoon, it's just freaking cool. Oh, and I don't want to give away I guess we can't give away. He ends up killing one of his own Conjure, so who we think is
Orsur
is actually a different Conjure, because he ended up killing him and becoming the person that Orsur was. It's kind of confusing, but I'm telling you, you're trickle introduced to all these concepts. And by the time you're done with the trilogy, you're like, holy shit, what did I just read?
Yeah, he's got so many little Easter eggs in there where things make sense. And then you read later on in the book, and you're like, with the Conjure situation, you say, oh, Orsur did this in book 2. Why'd he do that? That don't make no sense. But whatever. And you move on in the book 3, and it's like, oh, it wasn't Orsur. It was Tensoon who had killed Orsur, but took over, copied Orsur.
Who was copying another man.
Who was copying another person. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's very cool. And that's just one. Like I said, we're slowly introduced to like these 4 different, what I would call magic systems that are completely out. They're overlapping but separate. And we are slowly introduced to new information on how they work and new rules about how they work. And it never once felt cluttered. It never felt forced. Mm-hmm. There are things that you think might be, upon my initial reading of Mistborn, I thought might be like holes. Brandon Sanderson as an author, never just makes something up that I've seen, never just makes something up to pick up narrative slack or plug a plot hole. He never just says like, oh, the magic is doing this to fix this sort of narrative issue. That's never the case. And it's brilliant. It's literally brilliant.
Well, think of the hemalurgy is one of the 3 or 4 powers in this universe. And you don't learn about that till damn near the end of the 3rd book.
Yeah.
That it's even a thing, but it has been playing such a huge part in the entire story since the very beginning of the 1st book. And it's just like, what the?
Yeah. Didn't even see it coming. That is an amazing thing. The hemalurgy, and how it happens to one of the characters who ends up is a minor character that evolves into having some of his own chapters towards the end. We learn about like a hemalurgic spike, and he gets stabbed through a person into him, which was a hemalurgic spike. It's just incredible. There's too many details to go into, but when that happens and over those chapters, it's revealed that it happened. You're like, oh, back to the very beginning. This is what was happening to these people all along. It's just, my mind was blown.
And that goes back to one of my favorite character. Well, in the 1st book, my favorite character was Kelsier, because that dude's a G.
Yep.
He does some gangster ass stuff towards the end of the book. Second book, I don't know. I think maybe Vin. It just goes back to being Vin, main character type vibes. But 3rd book, by the end of the 3rd book, at one point I was right there with you with Tensoon.
Yep.
I'm putting him at number 2. 3rd book was Sazed, however you want to say it. Dude,
which is the one thing about reading books, I never know how to say the characters.
Yeah.
I was saying Sazed.
Sazed. Yeah.
Sazed. Sazed.
Yeah.
But it's Sazed.
That's what I don't know. That's what it is. That's what I've been saying.
Yeah.
So like it could be what you say. It could be something completely
different. Yeah. I was saying Sazed, but it's Sazed.
Dude, but his character development is insane. He goes from, he's studies religions. He's trying to study all religions that have ever existed in the 1,000+ year history of this world. And he stores them, so he has pretty much all knowledge of any religion that's ever existed, minor, big to small religions. And he considers himself an atheist. And he like falls in love, and then heartbreak, and then all the way to the end. Huge spoiler here, so if you don't want to know,
well, real quick, because he goes through an incredibly depressive episode. So he falls in love. The person he falls in love with is killed. And goes through, literally wants to give up, wants to leave everybody he cares about because he's fucked up. That fucked him up.
Yeah, he's not having a good time, not a happy camper, and goes through this like profound revelation of like the important things in life, and then by the end of the book, becomes God.
It's incredible,
and and it's one of those things that like you don't see coming. But it makes perfect fucking sense because he's the character from the first book that's been studying religions, that's an atheist, that has, when he's talking about religion and talking about why he's an atheist and how these religions don't make sense, like it makes sense in his world of like, oh yeah, that.
He studies them. Not only is he studying them academically, he's studying them emotionally. He's seeing how these different religions addressed different moral conundrums and or things like that. So he is studying them with the utmost intent to figure out what is real.
He wants one to be true.
Yeah.
So he's studying them to try and find a true religion. And he never gives up for like hundreds of years. He's like studying these religions, trying to find which one is the true religion. Can't find one. And then it turns out that he ends up becoming God. And I remember just that blowing my mind. And me being somebody, I'm not religious. I've struggled with faith in the past and all this stuff. I was just like, whoa, dude.
Kyle's going to become God himself. God. But it's so tight, though, because with Sazed, he is a good man. Yep. He treats people with respect. He's what's known as a Terraceman in this universe. He's from the land of Terrace, whatever. And these people are servants. They're just helpful. They're there to
Pac-Man.
Yeah, they're there to just help people. So he's with Vin the whole time. He helps her on her journey as she goes from being a slave girl, street urchin, whatever. No kind of confidence is like her biggest trait in the beginning is just doubt. Doubt and no self-confidence whatsoever. And she has to infiltrate the nobility and act like one of them. He's with her as her servant, and he's there and he's helping her and guiding her. And he's so lovable. We just love everything he does.
Yeah.
And then he turns into God at the end. God himself.
Literally like the last like 3 pages.
Yeah.
It like comes out of left field like, what the?
And then everything adds up.
Yep.
He learned so towards the end, he has these hundreds and hundreds of religions that he is going through systematically one by one, looking for an inconsistency or something to discredit. So he goes through religions. He says, this doesn't make sense. That one's not the truth. That doesn't make sense. That's not the truth. And he's literally marking them off in his journals, studying them one by one, making sure that they are morally and ethically consistent. Is the only word.
Yeah.
True. And so he has found flaws with every single religion. And when he becomes God, he knows what to do. And I was just like, wait, what? It's fucking incredible. And it's so cool reading these books. By about halfway through the second book, so in the middle of the trilogy, we have a pretty clear indication of the conclusion. Okay, Vin is going to find the Well of Ascension, and she's going to be the hero of ages. Like, here's what needs to happen, blah, blah, blah. So that is literally the titles of the book. It's the second book is the Well of Ascension, and the third book is the Hero of Ages. Like, where we know what's going to happen. Vin is the girl. She's our girl. Let's join her on this journey to get there. No, motherfucker. Brandon Sanderson had something for our bitch asses.
I mean, at one point too, I thought like it could be. I was like, oh, Vin. I was like, oh, it could be a Lind. Like a Lind's popping off, and
his journey is just as
And I was like, oh, it could be him because at this point, Vin is still having doubts. Like I'm like, oh, she can't. Like she's still struggling with it. Like they're like this. I don't know if she's gonna be able to handle it. She's kind of like mentally torn. She's been fucked with by the evil powers mentally, and she's not like quite stable. And I was like, oh, Lynn could be it. And then I was like, nah. And then it turns out it's not then.
It's fun to talk about these things to get the conversation going because I am simply not smart enough to understand. So in this universe, the whole above this realm of Earth and the final empire and everything that we've talked about so far are these two deities called preservation and ruin. Long ago, and they're supposed to constantly be in balance, constantly be pushing and pulling. Where one pushes, the other one pushes, and they always, no matter what, for all of eternity, have balanced and canceled each other out. A long time ago, preservation did something, gave up part of itself to be able to create life. So this is what happened. Preservation gave up. You cannot create, when you have preservation and ruin, they were so canceling each other out, you can't create anything. So preservation did something to be able to create human life, create the world, and has been in ruin, has been held at bay. And it's so easy to villainize ruin, but ruin is not evil. Ruin is just the opposite balancing force of preservation. And but the whole end of their world coming to an end is ruin finally balancing out the act of preservation, creating life. Ruin, the end of this whole story is ruin balancing things out.
Yeah.
So everything Vin is trying to do and Elend are trying to do to literally save the world.
Stop Ruin from ruining everything.
Yeah. Is just them fighting against Ruin's efforts to restore balance. And then Sazed comes out of left field and
he fucking handles business with both preservation and ruin.
Gets his.
And then fucking puts them together and creates harmony.
And then it's the end of the book.
Holy,
dude, I had a tear running down my cheek. I was sitting on the bed and I can't stop reading. It's been hours because I see that the pages are getting, I'm like, no. And then I'm like literally blown away and a tear running down my cheek. And I look up, my girlfriend's like laughing at me. I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, dude, I was, my other buddy, Joe Hickman, just finished the Mistborn trilogy. And I had told him like early on when he was first reading the first book. And I was like, hey, watch out for that Sanderlanche. And then like by like into book 2, he was like, hey, what did you call that? The last couple hundred pages of the book? I said Sanderlanche. I was like, it's the avalanche because the last 200 pages are unputdownable.
Yes.
And he has coined this term called the Sanderlanche. Now people call it, in any book that's like heavily back in books, they just call it like a Sanderlanche of just, you can't put the book down because the it's just going too hard.
It happened to me naturally. I didn't even know. I'm reading for hours because I see I only have like 200 pages. And I honestly, guys, I tell Kyle this all the time. I'm an incredibly slow reader. So when I got 200 pages left, that's a full day of reading for me. Yeah. I'm like, I literally could not stop. And I remember getting goosies as I'm getting bombarded with all of the pieces falling into place.
Yep.
All of the pieces regarding what I thought could be plot holes, or I would think later on, like, what, why did he say that? Blah, blah, blah. No, no questions. It makes sense. And it was a fucking wonderful conclusion to a trilogy worth every moment. I wish I could read it again for the first time. Yeah. So good.
I was going to say, for me, Mistborn, not only in its own sphere, is just a very good trilogy, peak fantasy, epic. I don't know if it's considered an epic fantasy or not. I assume so because it's its own world.
I'm not smart enough to know the difference.
So many little distinctions between all the different like subgenres of fantasy. I'd call it epic fantasy. It's so good in its own sphere, but then on top of it being like the first adult fantasy trilogy that I read that just showed me what fantasy can and should do, gives it an extra level of, it just means so much more to me as a reader because of what it did to me emotionally. And it set me on this path. Though I've read almost 100 books since then.
I texted Kyle when I got done. I said, I didn't know it was possible for a fantasy book. Like when I think fantasy, I thought I didn't like fantasy because I'm literally thinking fairies, trolls, your archetypal characters of whimsical, malevolent type. I don't know. Jungle. I don't even know what I'm thinking. I'm not thinking Mistborn.
I'm thinking Lord of the Rings type
stuff.
Fantasy has evolved.
I didn't know how far fantasy could be taken. The fact that one of the characters who's been with us since page 1 turns into God himself. I'm like, dude, this is fucking incredible.
Yeah.
This is fucking incredible. It blew my mind. It literally blew my mind.
So good. And Brandon Sanderson is an absolute genius when it comes to writing. And he's done that. And now he's reading The Way of Kings, which is the Stormlight Archives, which is one of his other series. His, what's it called? Magnum opus work. You know, it's going to be...
it's going to be remembered as his best work.
Yeah.
When I got done with that and I told Kyle I didn't know how far fantasy could be taken, Kyle texted me back, "Hi."
Hello. He's awake. He's rolling around.
Kyle texted back and said, "You need to read the Stormlight Archives. They're even better."
Yeah, everything.
I said, "No. How? No."
Everything he just did to you, he does it even harder.
So I'm about 2/3 of the way through The Way of Kings, just the first book, and I'm not getting God again. I see the possibilities. I was thinking, like when I was reading earlier today, I want to write down all the questions that I have. I want to write down all of the things that I'm thinking about, because I can almost guarantee they're going to get answered. The things are going to add up and make sense. All the things that he introduces without explaining are going to get explained. Yep. And I'm just very excited for that, because this book, I've never read a book this book. It looks like a phone book, dude.
Yeah, it's like 1,000 pages.
It's like 1,200 pages. It's almost 1,300 pages.
Oh, you have the small copy though. Right?
Oh, that's a massive copy, Bubba. It's a huge, painfully big copy, Bubba.
Yeah. Oh, I guess it depends on your version. These ones, I think mine's like 990 or something.
I
like
have
that,
what's called, you guys, and I didn't even know there was a difference in this until I bought these of the Mistborn trilogy, are called the mass-produced paperbacks, and they're the tiny little. When I think of my mom's book of romance novels that she had when I was a kid, they're literally like this big. It was falling apart by the time I got done with it from opening it and using it so much that literally the pages are falling apart, because they're like the cheapest paperback copies you can get.
Yeah.
But your boy's broke, so I'm out here reading the paperbacks. Don't fuck with me.
The Stormlight Archive mass markets, they're little chodes of books.
It's literally almost as thick as it is big. It's like a foot thick. Anyways, but yeah, I'm on The Way of Kings now. The Stormlight Archive, it's wonderful. It's more of the same. It's more of the... I had to kind of... It's hard for me when I pick up a new book to let go of the rules of the universe and the things that I've established throughout being fully immersed in this universe for so long, that I don't move from book to book as quickly as Kyle does. So
even with me, it's just it's the same. It's hard to get in, to let go of the world you were just in and to hop into a new world. But I think now, especially in the past, like literally like 3 or 4 books I've read, is I've like started to be like, all right, we're letting go, we're moving on.
It's a skill.
Quick.
It probably is a skill.
Yeah, it's like I'm getting better at it, because it used to take me, I would finish a book and I would take like a week before I would pick up a book, read a couple pages, put it down, like, man, I can't get into it.
Yeah.
And then it would take me like a week until I get into it, which is a lot of reading time, and I don't got time to not be reading that.
This is, I will say, moving on from Mistborn. Oh, let's get back to Mistborn, because I do have one question.
Okay.
What scene, did you have a scene from the trilogy that stands out to you as one of your favorites?
My favorite scene was Kelsier at the end, at the big fight at the end. I just remember him when he was when Kelsier was fighting.
This is the very end of the first book.
Yes. And he took all of the rules, and like how you said earlier, he kind of like didn't make sense with the rules he had established. But in this fight, he perfectly accentuated the rules of Allomancy and Kelsier as a master of his craft, and what even other Mistborns can't do.
Yep.
And he was just flying through the air, things zipping around, and I remember, this is an insane magic system, but I envisioned it so perfectly of what was going on with all, because I understood the rules and how things are supposed to happen, and the way he described it. I just remember being blown away by that fight scene.
Yeah, so there's a couple things. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it was fucking epic. It was so tight. So think about Magneto from X-Men, who can control metal. There's no ramifications. It's too easy. Magneto can pick up a car, boom, throw it, and kill somebody. There's no, I mean, of course, those stories have their own whatever place and have their own stuff. It's not like that. It's, if Kelsier wants to do something, he's got to keep in mind his own body, which can be enhanced to a degree, but he needs to be using the powers within the rules, and it makes it for a kind of harder to understand, to make sure things are adding up. I'm sure it's harder as a writer to make sure things are adding up. and for it still to be executed so perfectly.
So like because physics happen, you can push on a metal. So if they have a coin, which if you push on a coin, it flies because you weigh so much more than the coin. Your mass
push
is
that little mass.
pushing is the coin. But if you push the coin into the ground, now you're pushing against the mass of the earth, and so now you're gonna get shot straight up. And same thing if you're pulling on a piece of metal that's attached to a castle or something, you're gonna get pulled towards the castle because you don't weigh more than the castle, and he's just zipping through the air, flying around, throwing up metal objects.
Yeah,
it just doing some. It almost seems like he's breaking the rules, but
Yep.
he's not. He's so good at manipulating the rules and the physics of how this magic system works that it seems like he's breaking them. But
I've got a really stupid metaphor. This is a really dumb metaphor, but this is exactly what you're describing to me. So this, I remember when this was probably pushing a decade at this point since Fortnite came out.
Mm-hmm.
Playing Fortnite, it was one of the biggest video game cultural thing that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Every person I knew was playing Fortnite. There was nobody not playing Fortnite. It was huge.
Even non-video gamers were playing
Even
Fortnite.
non-video gamers,
Which you
myself.
were a non-video gamer, played Fortnite.
And my boy was like, have you downloaded Fortnite? I was like, what the hell, Fortnite? Let me go see. So, playing Fortnite. We're all playing Fortnite. And because there's like building, if you've ever played Fortnite, it's not just a shooting game. It's a shooting and you build walls around yourself, the whole thing. And I remember because it was a brand new concept to everybody was bad. Everybody was learning. Famous video game streamers who made a living by playing video games and streaming were bad. I remember watching you go back and watch, you're like, you're fucking terrible. Then people started getting good. The people who are good at video games started getting really good. And I remember playing Fortnite. I would play every single day with my friends. It's probably one of the only games in my life that I've ever got online to play with my friends because I'm just very, very, very casual video game player. I remember watching on YouTube one of a streamer's videos popped up. His name was Daquan, and he was playing Fortnite. And I was like, oh, I've never seen somebody play video games. I've never watched videos of people playing video games. This whole thing is brand new to me. And I see Daquan playing Fortnite. And I remember my mind being blown of how the fuck far can somebody take this little idea of playing video games or being this good or engaging in a fight and then building walls. I didn't know you could be that good at doing this stupid little video game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the analogy that I have for Kelsier. I didn't know, yes, there are all these rules, and you think, okay, I've got a coin here. I'm going to shoot this at you kind of like a bullet. I'm going to push this coin away from me so it hits you like a bullet. Cool. Like you can think of all these things. But if Allomancy and your magic system was part of your everyday life, the creative shit that people would be able to come up with, creative ass solutions of pulling on something that's over here, but also pulling on, like, it's metal. You can only interact with the metal. I need to go that way. So I'm pulling on two things that are slightly different angles, and I'm practically flying at this point if I'm surrounded by buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
And the stuff that he does to be able to kill the Lord Ruler at the end, it's an epic battle. It needs to be made into a movie somehow. It's an epic battle.
Dude, I would love to see that animated. There's no way somebody's going to be able to do that scene justice in like a live action. It's going to have to be like an animation thing, which would be fucking insane, because like the entire book, Kelsier is kind of teaching Vin how to be a Mistborn, and it's like baby steps, and then he fights the Lord Ruler at the end, and then it's like he's doing shit that like you hadn't even thought of yet, but obviously Brandon Sanderson has been thinking about this probably for years, and he's just doing shit like, oh yeah, with that being the rule, he can do that, and he's just
Spider-Man
essentially flying at this point where that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Really. Like you could push yourself up and throw yourself up in the air, but he's like hovering because he's pulling different angles and doing all kinds of crazy shit. That's the number one thing that stuck. I mean, minus the very ending of the third book where everything, the last like 200 pages were all fucking
right.
You put the last piece of puzzle together. Minus that, the Lord Ruler Kelsier fight was number one for me.
That's freaking gangster. One scene that stuck out for me is very similar with regards to mastering this magic system, is Vin has these great distances that she needs to travel. With the magic system, you only interact with metal. You can interact with emotions as well, but physically speaking, you interact with metal. You can't, like a person burning Allomancy or using their allomantic powers can't just throw a piece of wood, for example, but they can grab a piece of metal. So she has these great distances to travel and no way to travel
fast.
No way to you can run. She enhances her body and her strength, and she can run for a long ass time, but it's still not that fast. So what she does is probably my favorite single scene or takeaway from this book. She literally takes horseshoes, which are obviously dense, heavy metal objects, and she takes 3 of them and she pushes one, but she weighs more than them, so she can throw it away from her, and she throws one at the ground, kind of at an angle behind her, and she propels herself forward, and while she's launched in the air, she grabs the one behind her and brings it around her and throws it just in front of her, and then throws one below her and pushes from it. So she's constantly pushing. She's in this cycle. And the book even describes that it took practice for her to get the timing down. But eventually she's a ball of 3 horseshoes going around her, and she's hovering in the air, flying across the land. And I'm thinking, yes, I could be a Mistborn. I could have these powers my whole life, and I'm a dumbass and would be doing stupid stuff. And she's fucking rolling like a ball through the land. I'm like, yes, which
just goes to attest on how well the magic system is developed. Because if you're in the Marvel universe and that's your power, that you can fucking sling some horseshoes and fly, like that's so fucking stupid.
Instantly.
You dead. Who you
dead.
fight, dog?
Yeah,
that's so dumb. But within his own universe and the rules he set, I remember exactly what you're saying. Of like, oh my God, like that is incredible, because that's some dumbass shit I would think of that is tight.
Yes, it's so tight. And that's what I was trying to tell Kyle. It's like kind of messy. It's kind of not like, oh, this is very well refined and an elegant blah, blah, blah. But because it's so messy, it makes it real. Like, okay, if this power was real, this is what these motherfuckers would do. They would find some horseshoes. You'd have a badass Mistborn like Vin who finds some horseshoes. What's available to me? Let's come up with a solution. Boom. I'm tossing horseshoes and throwing and practically flying through the air.
Yep.
And it's so tight. And I just was reading that and I was like, this is gangster. It was that was the point. That was the scene. That was the little thing that happened that made me really fall in love with these books.
Yeah. Yeah. It just goes back to the whole point of why we're even talking about these books, is that they're absolutely incredible. If you've made it this far, I assume you've read them. But if you haven't read them, you need to go read them. And even if you've listened to all these spoilers, you're still going to be blown away, because there's so much more that he just dumps on you, and then it blows your mind. And
he does it so good though. So I was watching Tudor Ramble, the guys you showed me, and it was a second read through for one of the hosts of this other book talk. These guys are great, but one of them had read it a long time ago, so he read it again, and he said that the hints and the clues and the foreshadowing was heavy-handed on his second read through. Like, it's heavy-handed how much he's giving away. But I think that just shows how genius it is that during the first one, he's not missing. Brandon Sanderson as an author is not missing anything. It just doesn't seem obvious for me, because I wasn't familiar with his writing to begin with. But all the clues were there to begin with. Yeah. For the fact that that once you know what's going to happen, for the clues to seem heavy-handed, but during the first read through, they're not there at all. I think it's just a testament to how thorough and how consistent the writing, the world, and the magic is. Yeah.
And if anything, you should at least read Mistborn, because I think Mistborn, in and of itself, the first book, could be a self-contained solo book. Yeah. Like the way it goes, it has like an ending, and then he picks up, after it, and then it evolves into so much more. And if you read the first one, you should read the second and third. But the fact that the first book could be considered its own self-contained story,
agreed,
is insane.
Yeah, agreed. It has a nice little conclusion. Oh, that boy. Has a nice little conclusion, and I think it was a wonderful introduction to fantasy as a genre, dude. Fantastic.
Yeah. So if you have any friends that you want to read with you and read books with you, just get them on some Mistborn, get them hooked on it. It's a very easy read, and it's so good. They will be addicted, and they will continue to read and read other stuff that you recommend them. So it's a good old-fashioned hoodwink series.
That's true. What he just said, he got me with. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. Well, he got me with Red Rising, and then he was like, well, check out Mistborn. I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. Boom. Yada ying. Loved it. Can't stop. I'm on wave.
I knew you were more of a dystopian sci-fi guy, so that's why I recommended Red Rising first. Because I've thought about it a lot. Like, Red Rising and Mistborn kind of are the same in the terms of like easy to get into fantasy sci-fi series. And I was like, you just got to pick what your friend is into. If they're
Yeah.
more like into dystopian sci-fi, give them Red Rising. If they're more into, you know, fantasy stuff, give them Mistborn, and you can kind of go both routes, and then you got by both.
We're gonna get all of our friends to start reading,
Yeah.
maybe except for Steven. We
Except
get
for
Steven to read. Dude, they're so good. I'm telling you guys right now, check out Mistborn. Let us know what were your favorite scenes that stuck out to you. If you've read the Mistborn trilogy, what did you like about the universe? What did you not like about the universe? And or what was your favorite scene? That's what I'm most interested in, because there are scenes, and it's crazy how profound years later a scene can stick with you of, oh, I don't like remember every small detail of these books, but I do remember like a character like Tinsoon fucking just stands out to me because of how incredibly well written, and the scene with the horseshoes, just things like that just stand out years later of,
Yeah.
this is great.
And another thing, Mistborn for me was also my first introduction into like reading a series where it was like a female lead character, protagonist, which I remember so I didn't really read any fantasy from when I was a kid till just a few years ago. And every book I read pretty much was a boy male protagonist.
Yeah.
And then I read a female protagonist, and you know, it's a female protagonist written by a male author, so I'm sure it's a little bit different than reading a female protagonist written by a female author. But I just remember being like, dang, it's a girl. Like, am I going to be able to connect with this? Am I going to be able to enjoy this? And then it was a non-issue from like the second page on.
Right. She's a bad bitch and we love her.
Yeah. Anyways, that's our thoughts on Mistborn, the trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. We will, by the next episode we come out with, we will have a name for what this is.
We're going to have this shit planned out. We just want to, we will.
We just want to be on here and yap and talk about the books that we love and enjoy, and hopefully talk with you guys about them and see what this can be.
Appreciate you all.
Love, bye.
Bye-bye.